Hello students, welcome to the second video of this chapter 9, Respiration in Organisms. We have already seen the meaning of respiration and we also have seen the different steps of respiration. So let us just recapitulate whatever we have seen in the previous video. We have seen students that external respiration is the process of the intake of oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide. This process takes place between the environment and the lungs, and hence it is also known as external respiration. Whereas on the other hand, internal respiration is the final process of the production of energy using the oxygen that we have taken in and finally removing the carbon dioxide that has been produced during the process of energy production or respiration. Now let us see what are the differences between internal respiration and external respiration. So first of all, external respiration is a physical process, whereas internal respiration is a biochemical process. External respiration, during the process of external respiration, oxygen is taken in whereas carbon dioxide is given out, whereas during internal respiration, glucose is oxidized to release water and carbon dioxide. External respiration is an energy consuming process, whereas internal respiration produces energy. External respiration takes place extracellularly, whereas internal respiration is an intracellular process, that is, it takes place in the cell. No enzymes are required during external process, whereas many enzymes are involved during the process of internal respiration. So these are the differences between internal and external respiration. Now let's move on to the different types of respiration. Respiration can be of two types depending on whether it is using oxygen or not. So it is aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So first of all, let us understand what aerobic respiration is. So as we have already seen that internal functions of our body require energy. It is also, the energy is also used for repairing our damaged cells, maintaining our body, and it supports all the external activities that our body has to do in order to interact with the physical world. So our bodies require a constant supply of energy, which is of course received by the food that we are eating. Now glucose that we get from the food, that is from the breakdown of the carbohydrates, is only the source of energy that we obtain. Now the energy is used in many ways, enabling muscles to contract, keeping warm in mammals and birds, and also building new molecules and cells and tissues. So this is about aerobic respiration, where oxygen is required for the process of energy production. But there are many instances, that is when we do any vigorous exercises such as cycling, weightlifting, running. So during such moments what happens? We respire anaerobically. So generally, that is most commonly, we respire aerobically only, but what I am saying is that during vigorous exercises, the amount of oxygen that we receive by normal breathing is not sufficient for the production of energy that is required by our body at that time. So what happens then? So muscle cells, they respire or start respiring anaerobically for a short duration of time. So first of all, what is this anaerobic respiration? So anaerobic respiration is the process of respiration that takes place in the absence of oxygen. So what happens during this anaerobic respiration? So demand for energy is high and the supply of oxygen is limited. So glucose starts breaking down in the absence of oxygen. So if glucose is breaking down in the absence of oxygen, so is it that the same products will be produced? So glucose breaks down in the absence of oxygen in our muscles to produce lactic acid, carbon dioxide and energy. So here you can see that the products from normal respiration process are completely different. In normal respiration, that is during aerobic respiration, carbon dioxide, water and energy is produced, whereas during anaerobic respiration we can see that a new product, that is lactic acid, is produced. So is this lactic acid harmful for our body, or is it has no effect on our body? So let us see this. The anaerobic respiration in muscles leads to the formation of lactic acids in muscles. Accumulation of this lactic acid in muscle cells takes place, which results in the formation of cramps, and these cramps are painful contractions of muscles. So the cramps are painful and it leads to the stiffness of the muscles, and the cramps are formed as a result of the formation of lactic acid, and lactic acid is formed as a result of anaerobic respiration. You also must have experienced this sometimes. So now, how can we get relief from these cramps? If they are harmful and they are painful, so how can we get relief from these cramps? So if we take hot water bath or massage, so this hot water bath or massage improves circulation of blood to those affected areas. What will happen then? So increase in the supply of blood will also increase the supply of oxygen to these cells, and as the cells will get sufficient amount of oxygen, so they will start respiring aerobically again, and also the lactic acid will finally break down into carbon dioxide and water in the presence of oxygen. So this is how we can get relief from the cramps that have been formed as a result of anaerobic respiration by hot water bath or massage, which will improve the circulation of blood to these muscles. So this is what happens in human beings. But anaerobic respiration not only takes place in our muscle cells, but it also takes place in certain organisms such as yeast cells. So they don't have oxygen, no problem, they undertake fermentation. So let us understand what this is with the help of this video. So during anaerobic respiration that will take place in yeast, let us see what happens. So this process first of all is known as fermentation. Now every organism needs energy and oxygen is needed, but what if there is no oxygen? So fermentation takes place if there will be no oxygen present. So what happens during fermentation? Let us see. It is a type of anaerobic respiration which also results in the formation of energy. But what is the difference there? So first of all, there are two types of fermentation, alcoholic and lactic acid fermentation. Alcoholic we have already seen. Lactic acid we have already seen, and here we are dealing with alcoholic fermentation. So it takes place in plants, certain trees, plants, and also in yeast cells. What happens here? Glucose is broken down into ethanol and carbon dioxide. So these are the products of fermentation that is taking place in yeast cells and some other organisms, but the amount of energy that is produced here is very less. So lactic acid fermentation takes place in bacteria and also in some organisms, as we have seen here. So what happens during lactic acid fermentation? Glucose will be broken down into lactic acid, carbon dioxide, and also energy will be produced, but the amount of energy, as I have told you, will be very less. The ATP that is generated is less. So aerobic respiration produces 36 ATP molecules. That is very large, whereas anaerobic respiration just produces 2 ATP molecules. So students, alcoholic fermentation, that's why is not, and also lactic acid fermentation is not a very energy efficient process, that is lots of energy is not produced. So this is all for this video students. Thank you so much.